The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Lectures and Discourses, Unity, the Goal of Religion, Part 1. This universe of ours, the universe of the senses, the rational, the intellectual, is bounded on both sides by the unknowable and the ever unknown. Herein is the search. Herein are the inquiries. Here are the facts. From this comes to light which is known to the world as religion. Essentially, however, religion belongs to the supersensuous and not to the sense plane. It is beyond all reasoning and is not on the plane of intellect. It is a vision, an inspiration, a plunge into the unknown and the unknowable, making the unknowable more than the known, for it can never be known. This search has been in the human mind, as I believe, from the very beginning of humanity. There cannot have been human reasoning and intellect in any period of the world's history without this struggle, this search beyond. In our little universe, this human mind, we see a thought arise. Whence it arises, we do not know, and whence it disappears, where it goes, we know not either. The macrocosm and the microcosm are, as it were, in the same groove, passing through the same stages, vibrating in the same key. I shall try to bring to you before the Hindu theory that religions do not come from without, but from within. It is my belief that religious thought is in the man's very constitution, so much so that it is impossible to give it up. Religion cannot be given up until a person gives up his mind and body, until he can give up thought and life. As long as a man thinks, this struggle must go on, and so long as man must have some form of religion. Thus we see various forms of religion in the world. It is a bewildering study, but it is not, as many of us think, a vain speculation. Amidst this chaos there is harmony. Throughout these discordant notes there is a note of concord, and he who is prepared to listen to it will catch the tone. The great question of all the questions at the present time is this: taking for granted that the known and the knowable are bounded on both sides by the unknowable and the infinitely unknown, why struggle for that infinite unknown? Why shall we not be content with the known? Why shall not we be satisfied with eating, drinking, and doing a little good to society? This idea is in the air. From the most learned professor to the prattling baby, we are told that to do good to the world is all of religion, and that it is useless to trouble ourselves about questions of the beyond. So much is this the case that has become a truism. But fortunately, we must inquire into the beyond. This present, this expressed, is only the one part of that unexpressed. The sense universe is, as it were, only one portion, one bit of the infinite spiritual universe projected into the plane of the sense consciousness. How can this little bit of projection be explained, be understood without knowing that which is beyond? It is said of Socrates that one day, while lecturing at Athens, he met a Brahmin who had travelled into Greece, and Socrates told the Brahmin that the greatest study for mankind is man. The Brahmin sharply retorted, "How can you know man until you know God? This God, this eternally unknowable, or absolute or infinite, or without name, you may call him by what name you like, he is the rationale, the only explanation, the raison d'etre of that which is known and knowable, this present life. Take anything before you, the most material thing. Take one of the most material sciences as chemistry or physics, astronomy or biology, study it, push the study forward and forward, And the gross forms will begin to melt and become finer and finer until they become to a point where you are bound to make a tremendous leap from these material things to the immaterial. The gross melts into the fine, physics into metaphysics, in every department of knowledge. Thus, man finds himself driven into the study of the beyond. Life will be a desert. Human life will be vain if we cannot know the beyond. It is very well to say, be content with the things of the present. The cows and the dogs are, and so are all the animals. But that is what makes them animals. So if a man rests content with the present and gives up all search into the beyond, mankind will have to go back to the animal plane again. It is religion, the inquiry into the beyond, that makes the difference between man and an animal. Well has it been said that man is the only animal that naturally looks upwards. Every other animal naturally looks down. That looking upward and going upward and seeking perfection is what we call salvation. And the sooner a man begins to go higher, the sooner he raises himself towards this idea of truth as salvation. It does not consist in the amount of money in your pocket, or the dress you wear, or the house you live in, but in the wealth of spiritual thought in your brain. That is what makes for human progress. That is the source of all material and intellectual progress, the motive power behind the enthusiasm that pushes mankind forward.